Welcome to The Explainer. We all think we know what political corruption looks like, right? We're taught to look for shady backroom deals and literal briefcases stuffed with cash. Well, throw that out the window. What if I told you the biggest, most massive bribes in modern history are broadcast right into your living room? Okay, let's get into this. Today, we're exposing a billion-dollar heist. And here's the absolute craziest part. It is 100% legal. Seriously, how do you legally bribe a modern head of state? Forget the Hollywood movies. Forget those sketchy offshore bank accounts. If you want to funnel millions to a prime minister completely legally, you can't just wire it. You definitely can't hand them a gold bar. Modern titans, well, they need a cleaner method. A method that leaves zero criminal footprint.
The answer is so beautifully simple, it's honestly kind of insulting. Do not send cash. Just buy his television commercials. No briefcases, no dark web crypto transfers, just totally normal standard corporate advertising. You purchase a 30-second slot, you pretend you're trying to sell soap or, I don't know, cars, but make no mistake, you aren't actually buying airtime. You are literally buying the politician. Let's dive right into Section 1, the president's private money printer. Let's lock in on our primary suspect and the ultimate crime scene, 1990s Italy. Economists captured a textbook anomaly here, and it exposes a massive structural loophole that exists all over the world today. Silvio Berlusconi wasn't just Italy's prime minister for 3 separate terms. He also just happened to own Mediaset, the nation's single largest private television network. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine your country's leader personally owning the biggest broadcast network in the country. No blind trusts, no separation. The guy literally held the political pen in one hand and the corporate bank account in the other. So at the time, Italy's TV landscape was basically a strict duopoly. You had public television on one side and the prime minister's private network on the other. And as you can probably guess, this wasn't just a friendly battle for viewer ratings. No, it became a real-time barometer of political loyalty. Where these mega corporations chose to put their ad money suddenly meant a whole lot more than just reaching everyday consumers. Economists actually have a term for this. They call it market-based lobbying. And honestly, it's a flawless closed-loop system. Think about it. You just shift your everyday marketing budget over to the politician's company. They get filthy rich off your corporate purchases, and you get massive political favors in return. The best part? It hides perfectly inside an everyday, boring corporate budget. It's the ultimate daylight robbery. Which brings us to Section 2, Ironclad Proof. The data slaps. Now, you might be sitting there thinking this is just some wild conspiracy theory, but wait until you see the cold, hard, face-slapping data. Researchers actually proved this using millions, literally millions, of Nielsen advertising records. They tracked exactly where every single dollar went. And wouldn't you know it, the exact second Berlusconi takes office, corporate ad spending mysteriously shifts. It violently drops on the public TV network and skyrockets directly into his private network. And when he loses an election, poof, the money instantly flows right back out. It mathematically perfectly mirrors his political power. Okay, but here is the single most mind-blowing detail in the entire study. The researchers checked the total seconds of advertising being sold. The actual amount of airtime didn't change at all. The supply was totally fixed. Instead, the price per second artificially skyrocketed by 15 euros, but only on his network. So, what does this actually mean? It means corporations were intentionally bidding up the price. They didn't need more airtime, guys. They were literally competing with each other to overpay the prime minister. They were just shoving cash right into his company's profit margins. It's brilliant, and terrifyingly, it's completely legal. Let's hit Section 3, core motive or buying privilege. So who exactly was throwing all this money at the TV network and why? Well, the researchers found an absolute bombshell hiding in the data. To figure out the motive, they compared different industries. Unregulated companies, like clothing brands or toy makers, they couldn't care less who was in power. Their spending stayed totally flat. But the highly regulated industries, things like telecommunications, finance, pharmaceuticals, oh, they went absolutely crazy buying ads on the prime minister's network. Think about it. If your industry needs government green lights, you suddenly develop this massive burning urge to advertise on his channel. You don't actually care if the viewers buy your telecom packages. You don't care about the product at all. You only care that the prime minister sees your money padding his personal bottom line. You aren't buying ads. You are buying the favor. And this brilliantly illustrates the whole playbook. It is beautifully, ruthlessly simple. Step 1. Your firm needs a regulatory green light or a policy favor. Step 2. You shift your marketing budget to buy vastly overpriced ads on the leader's private network. Step 3. Boom, you get your regulatory green light. It's a protection racket operating entirely in plain sight.
Moving right along to Section 4, the crazy billion-euro windfall.
So, let's calculate the exact size of this legal heist. How much did they actually get away with? Researchers used advanced supply and demand models to isolate the exact premium paid directly to the politician. The total? 1.1 billion euros. Over his 9 total years in power, this invisible lobbying scheme pumped over €1 billion of totally unearned profit directly into his company. At one point, this accounted for 20% of his company's entire market value. That is insane.
But remember, these massive corporations weren't acting out of the goodness of their hearts. They expected a massive return on investment, and the data models show exactly what that was. To justify paying a €1 billion premium, these highly regulated firms expected a €2.1 billion return. We're talking favorable regulations, huge tax breaks, and total market monopolies.
It is literally the most profitable handshake in economic history. Think about traditional campaign donations. They're capped, right? They're heavily monitored and regulated. But this scheme, uncapped. It completely bypasses all campaign finance laws, it enriches the politician personally, and yet it remains virtually unpunishable by law. Let's wrap it up with Section 5. Impact, meaning, and our academic critique.
Look, this study is an academic masterpiece. Unlike traditional research that just tracks boring standard campaign cash, this data actually proves that the legal bribe exists right in plain sight. By using hardcore, undeniable Nielsen ad records, it forces us to completely redefine what lobbying actually is. It shatters the myth that corruption only happens in the shadows.
But we have to call out where the paper falls short. The researchers are way too focused on the short-term cash. Sure, they mathematically calculate the €1 billion, but they completely miss the long-term destruction here. When leaders are allowed to enrich their own media empires like this, they destroy media truth. They choke out fair economic competition for decades. The true cost isn't just €1 billion. It is the absolute death of a fair system. We've mapped out the entire anatomy of €1 billion TV ad, but honestly, it forces you to look at our own world today. Look around. Politicians globally own massive real estate empires, stock portfolios, and tech companies. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. If the corruption we can actually track is this massive and this legal, what invisible products are your leaders making you buy right now? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you on the next one.